Hi, my name is Genesis Marie Regala Buendia. I'm a Stevenson Fellow from ISU, majoring in anthropology. For this podcast, we were asked to answer some questions regarding our prior experience, current experience, and future endeavors related to the ASET program. To help facilitate this podcast, my partner James will be helping by asking the questions that they gave us.
And to start us off, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, like I said, my name is Genesis. I'm actually not from the Illinois or the Midwest in general. I'm from Central Florida, grew up there. Then, after that, I went to South Florida at Harriet L. Wilkes Honors College at Florida Atlantic University, doing my major in liberal arts and sciences and with a concentration in anthropology as well as a certificate in Caribbean and Latin American studies. What led me here eventually was my placement as an AmeriCorps Vista in the immigration project, and what eventually led me here to ISU was the ACED program's connection with AmeriCorps in particular.
How did what you went to school for correlate with the volunteer work that you've done?
It relates in terms of the people that I served and the things that I've studied. So, like I said, I have a certificate in Caribbean and Latin American studies for my undergrad. And while I was doing that, I was also volunteering almost 800 hours worth of time to an immigrant resource center called El Sol in Jupiter, Florida. I learned a lot there about AmeriCorps and volunteer work and working with immigrants in general. So when I saw the placement for the immigration project as their volunteer coordinator, I thought it would be a good chance for me to look at my potential career path since I already was immersed with the immigrant community, particularly the Latino community, so I figured this would be a good opportunity for me to learn more about what I would want to do as a future career.
While you were working at El Sol, what person or group of people made the most impact on you as a person?
The people that made the most impact to me as a person were the AmeriCorps Vistas there, actually. They were the reason why I bothered looking up AmeriCorps Vista as an option to do after college. So they were telling me about the work that they did, and I could see the results of the work that they did. And I thought that if I wanted to learn more about working in the nonprofit sector, following in their footsteps would be the best choice.
So you did do plenty of volunteer work at El Sol. Is there any other volunteer work that you've done?
So the other volunteer work that I did after El Sol was actually how I ended up in Illinois in the first place. For 2 years, I worked as an AmeriCorps Vista for the Immigration Project. They're located in Normal, Illinois, so same town as ISU, and their mission was to provide low income immigrants services at an affordable cost for them in order to get immigration law assistance. And it was available not just for Bloomington Normal, but also for downstate Illinois in general. So for 2 years, I mobilized, trained, and supervised about 35 interns and then several, maybe over 100 volunteers over the course of 2 years. And I was making sure that the immigration project always had people helping the attorneys and helping with the office in general.
And while you were working for the immigration project, and I imagine managing 35 volunteers is a huge task. Do you feel like you learned a lot from managing that many people?
So it was actually 35 interns in the course of 2 years, so about six a semester, but usually 50 ish people each semester were volunteers, and it was difficult at the beginning because even though there were less volunteers at the time, I was still trying to get the ropes of how to coordinate people, but it kind of grew over time to just be a routine, so it got easier over time. Stressful during the interview process when I have to interview several interns, but aside from that, it was pretty routine over time.
And once you finished your time at the immigration project, what was next for you?
After the immigration project, I started ISU in the ASED program. So for that was actually a relatively smooth transition. I actually heard about the ASED program through AmeriCorps during my training. They mentioned that it was one of the paths for people to take if they were interested in any sort of service learning after AmeriCorps. And I applied, got accepted, and started a week after I ended my service term, a week or so of it.
So, how did the Stevenson Center compare to the expectations that you had for it?
So for the Stevenson Center, my expectations were not fully formed, honestly, because like I said, I heard about them through AmeriCorps, and then I met Beverly at a panel that we were both speaking at of what to do after you graduate from college. So she told me a little bit more about the program, and it sounded really interesting in terms of, yes, there was an intensive first year of classes, but that the second year had a professional practice, so it balanced out where, yes, the education part was a little bit daunting, but the second year of professional practice was very interesting. So I wasn't really expecting much aside from learning in school than learning on the field. And I honestly wasn't expecting to get a master's when I graduated from college. So I was a pretty open book about what I was getting myself into.
So, with you being an open book about the education you were going into, the first year you took, you had a few classes. Which one would you say is your favorite?
My favorite would probably have to have been my classes related to Latin American studies. So my three electives that I chose for the spring semester were Central American politics and Latin American ethnography, as well as Latino in the Heartland, which was a sociology class based on Latinos living in the Midwest.
And throughout your time with the Stevenson Center, you've been a part of a cohort, met a lot of faculty and staff. What were your relationships like with them?
My relationships with them were they're very strong. Whenever we were in between classes, right before the shared classes we had together, we would hang out in the conference room and then afterwards go to a restaurant or something like that afterwards. We did, before the pandemic, go to a trivia night and participate in that together. So we got to know each other both in the classroom as cohorts and outside of the classroom as friends. In terms of the faculty and staff, they're very supportive. For ASED, I really respect Beverly, Frank, Katie, and Dawn a lot because they have to juggle not only our year, but the year above us, the year below us, the alum, prospective people from a couple years down the road. So I know that they're really busy, but they always make sure to check in on us, which I really appreciate. And with the anthro department, they're very supportive too, always doing little things like a little chili cook off or holiday party. Obviously, that's not happening right now because of COVID, but I still get emails from them even though I'm not on campus anymore. So, overall, my relationships with faculty, staff, cohort are very strong.
At your current professional practice, what do you do for them?
So currently, I work with the East Central Illinois Area Agency on Aging, or the Area Agency. Even though we're stationed in Bloomington, we have 16 counties to keep track of, And with those 16 counties, I have two main projects that I work on, which is reducing social isolation and dementia friendly communities. So, for reducing social isolation, we have three committees in three different counties: Macon, McLean, and Champaign. So each of them has their own personality and different times of when they want to meet in terms of frequency. But the overall theme is we're trying to get together partners from these different areas in order to make sure that even though, especially in this pandemic where it's promoting isolation, we're making sure that people who are alone are not lonely. So this takes into partnership with libraries in the area, connected to medical centers, connected to nursing homes, connected to other services that may be provided to the seniors to make sure that they're living in safety and dignity in terms of reducing the social isolation for them. For my dementia friendly communities project, since they're people who have the physical disabilities of someone who may be blind or in a wheelchair taken care of, we're making sure that people with cognitive disabilities are also taken care of as well. With that, we're trying to make sure banks, restaurants, other places that people normally visit on a daily basis have enough training or heads up where they can accommodate people with dementia. So, if, for example, someone looks confused at a bank, if the bank teller is trained to identify signs of someone with dementia, instead of getting exasperated by them, they would instead know how to handle the situation and help to the best of their abilities. And we are just starting that initiative, so we are in the training wheel stages and we're hoping to continue forward in the next couple of months.
Once your time's over at the East Central Illinois Area Agency on Aging, what are your next steps? What do you plan to do?
It depends because for the area agency, I am working on a capstone with them for the dementia friendly community, and I'm keeping track basically of the progress of we're doing, how we're following the toolkit from Dementia Friends America, and assessing the strengths and limitations of us following that toolkit and what things we should improve on in the next county that we choose to implement this program with. So in the future, maybe I expand on that capstone. Older adults is not necessarily my field of expertise, but I've grown to learn a lot more than I think the average person at least has. So if I am choosing a job, that would be an avenue for me to go to in terms of working with another area agency, either in the state or a different state. I have enough experience for that, I believe. So my true passion in terms of research would be, or not even research, just working in general with the Latin American community or immigrant community. But I know that because, especially of COVID and just life in general, you don't always get what you want because of life just happening. So I understand that I may not be working with older adults or may not be working with the immigrant community, but overall, I know that through the Stevenson program, through the practicum that they offer, through the intensive learning of the first year that they offer, I'm more equipped to work in nonprofit works in general. And even if it's not nonprofit, into any sort of community development or economic development that may be available in a city.
Thank you. That's all the questions that I have.
Okay, thanks, James. So, thank you for taking the time to listen to this, everyone. I hope that I expanded enough on my prior experience to show you the way that it led me to being in part of the Stevenson Center program. So, I hope you guys have a nice day. Thank you. Take care. Bye.